Hello, welcome to the first episode of Soju with Sarah. On the menu today at Sarah's Soju Cafe is Yuja Passion Spritz, so grab your mugs and let's talk about opportunity cost in your 20s. Most of you guys are probably coming from my main channel where I vlog and share things about my life and career, but this is my podcast channel. I'm starting this podcast because there was a series I wanted to start originally like 2 years ago when I first hit 100K. I did this video called Soju with Sarah. It was intended to be a series, but in that video specifically, I answered 100 questions and there were other topics that I kind of prefaced, like growing up Asian American, my career and my life and different challenges there, my relationship. And I actually filmed the second episode with my boyfriend, James. It was a boyfriend tag, but I never ended up releasing it because we were so freaking awkward. And I just felt like it wasn't the right time to also release it. But now that we're 2 years older and it's quite delayed, we are actually going to set up Soju with Sarah. So welcome to this channel. Also, I feel like as an existing creator, it's always kind of scary to start something new because there's a lot of eyes on you. And I kind of psyched myself out for the longest time from starting something from complete scratch. But I want this to be a safe space for myself to talk about topics that I wanted to explore and just things that have been on my mind. But I also have always admired different creators. Like some of my favorite creators, they have comment sections that are actual discussion threads, like Reddit thread type discussion threads where people will just use it to springboard off of each other and talk about random things like what peanut butter is the best peanut butter ever. And I feel like in my main channel, that's not really the case. I wonder if it's because people don't feel open enough to share as much about their own lives. But I want this place, I want this podcast, I want this channel to be a safe space for you guys also to just talk about topics that might pick your interest and just kind of use it as a community space to connect and talk about different things. So that's the origin story of this podcast. And hopefully I keep it running. I feel like because I'm a Gemini, I always start things and I have a hard time continuing and seeing it through because there's just so many other things running through my head all the time. But anyways, if you're coming from YouTube, you'll also notice the soju mug that I made in the studio. It's shrank a lot. Like it was really big when I first made it, but now it's kind of tiny. But it is holding the drink of today, which is yuja, soju, seltzer. I kind of just made it up because I knew I needed a drink for this. I have it in the soju cup. And I just came back from my 5th year reunion and I promised myself I wouldn't drink because it was a long weekend of drinking. It was my 5th year reunion. So I was seeing a lot of people and there was just a lot of alcohol consumption that I haven't had as much since college. But for the sake of this episode, we are drinking a lot more alcohol. Also, I had this crazy idea to make a new soju mug for every episode, but I feel like that's a pretty big commitment. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I have one other one in the kiln that's going to be probably ready this week. So hopefully for the next episode, there will be another soju mug. So the two things I get asked the most when I tell people I'm starting a podcast is am I going to have guests and who my co-host is? And given my current schedule and commitments, it's actually pretty hard to find someone who will drink soju with me at 11 p.m. after a workday. So for the time being, it's just going to be me. I kind of wanted it to just be me for now because I feel like a lot of the topics I want to talk about are very personal to me. So it's just me. But in terms of guests, I actually haven't lined up any guests yet. I do have a lot of friends that I've kind of asked them if they want to be on the channel. A lot of content creators, some other friends who are in other fields. Nothing is solidified yet, but there will hopefully be guests coming on soon. I did want my first guest to be... Actually, I'm going to keep that a secret. So last week, I was pretty distraught about what my first episode would be because I have this running Notion list of different things I want to talk about. And the general theme of this podcast is I want to talk about relationships, career, growth as a person. And I feel like the larger term that kind of encompasses all this is adulting. But adulting is a very, very broad term. I feel like you could take it different ways. Because I went to my 5th year reunion over the weekend, I feel like the biggest topic that's been on my head is opportunity cost of your 20s. And that sounds very like broad and lofty, but basically I saw a lot of my friends and peers and it's been 5 years, which is insane for me to think about because I still feel like my COVID adjusted age, which is 23. And I know I don't look, well, maybe I do look 23. I don't, okay. But it's so interesting to see how everyone's slightly changed. Like everyone still kind of has the same essence that they carry themselves with, but there's so many like minor differences, not just in like the physical, but also in the way that people carry themselves, the careers that they're in, like the ambitions that they have. And it's been a recurring 3-year like existential crisis for me, thinking about opportunity cost in a different way that's not just about economics. Opportunity cost, I feel like, is taught more so in like a business or economics context, where you basically lose something to gain something. There's a cost to pretty much every opportunity that you take on. And I've been thinking a lot more about how it applies to life in your adulthood, because every decision I make now, I have this overwhelming sense that it's at the expense of something else. And I actually got this phrasing from James because he's the economics major in this household, but I just thought it was a perfect way to describe the paradox of growth in your adulthood. But I think up until my adulthood, everything's felt very linear, like there's a stepping stone to something else. And so when I was in high school and when I was in primary school, the only thing that mattered to me, or one of the only things that mattered to me, there were a lot of things as a kid, but I just felt like as a kid, the clearest path to me was getting into a good college. And so everything that I did was to get into a good college. There wasn't really a sense of I had to make choices for myself, or I had to decide what to use my time doing to get to where I wanted to go. And then once I got into college, it was, I need to get a good job. I need to provide for my family. I needed to set myself up well so that once I entered adulthood, I would have a stable job, stable income, and then everything would be great. And I never really thought in college about what came after that. Like, what do you do next with your life? Do you just stay in corporate forever? Do you just go on to pursue a passion project? Do you build a family? And when do you build a family? And all that. And I kind of felt like my sense of life after college would be get a corporate job, get married, and have kids. And I wanted to have kids so early. Like, it freaked James out because we started dating when we were in junior year of college. And so after graduating, the first thing that I was talking about was getting married and having kids. And I wanted to have kids by 25, which is long gone, but none of that happened. And I think that's kind of an opportunity cost that I've lived through, which is giving up the desire to have kids and get married early, because I have now other things that I'm interested in and other things that take up my time and my mental bandwidth. And predominantly right now, that is like content creation. But through the years, I've seen different things enter my life. But in the larger sense, maybe because I'm still young, but the weight of everything feels more and more as I get older. So everything I do and every step I make now feels so important in a way that it's not as forgiving as when I was younger. And so the reason I wanted this to be the first topic of the podcast is because I feel like this mindset has been very debilitating for me recently. And I'm so curious if it is debilitating for other people. I now go through periods of decision paralysis and analysis paralysis, and I'll just weigh different things in my life and their importance based on different metrics that I used to think was important. I feel like the 3 main things in my life right now are my full-time job, working as a software engineer, my content creation, and my YouTube channel, and actually predominantly my YouTube channel, because I really haven't had the time to extend beyond YouTube and experiment with short form. But now the third thing is pottery. And when I think about pottery, I feel very happy. A lot of my joy right now and hobbies and passions revolve around creating things with my hands. This is like such a bad way to think about it, but I evaluate pottery sometimes in the sense of, is this something that is worth my time? Because the time I give to pottery is the opportunity cost of some other opportunity. Objectively, pottery is not really a career choice for me. It's just something that I really love and enjoy, but it's not something that's going to make me money. And that's not the biggest thing in life. Like, now that I am 26, almost 27, money carries such a different weight for me. Like, money used to be everything for me because my parents' annual income when I was growing up was like $10K a year, and it was not a lot of money. And I used to think that the only way that I could have a happy life is having money. And the older I get and the further away I am from that childhood that I had, the less that money affects me. But I do have this subconscious understanding that things do still revolve around money. So when I think about the things that I've decided to do for myself, I've noticed that I don't prioritize money as much. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I definitely know that some people will take up other hobbies because it's more profitable or do other things with their time that's more quote unquote smart with their time or smart for themselves. But I've been really grappling with the fact that I don't have as much time to spread thin between more interests and more commitments and more things. And this podcast even, I feel like, is adding to that commitment obligation set. And because it's so low key right now and it's just me talking to a camera drinking soju, it's not making me any money. And I really thought about it too, because I did think to put this on my main channel where maybe I could get a little bit more AdSense. And I think for a while this channel will not be making money for me. Like the Soju with Sarah podcast channel will not make money for me because there are certain metrics you need to hit on YouTube, like 4,000 watch hours, 1,000 subscribers. That will probably take a little bit of time. But I feel like in the last couple of years, I've continuously made decisions that don't seem very smart for myself from a monetization profitability perspective, because I want to be more honest with myself and genuine about the things that I do and the things that I actually care about. From that standpoint too, I've also turned down a lot of sponsorship deals in the last 2 years because I really thought about myself and who I wanted to be, who I wanted to represent, and different things on my channel. And sometimes if a brand is paying me money but it doesn't align with like who I am and what I want to convey to my audience, I'll just flat out turn down an offer even if it's paying very well. And that's actually the case a lot of the times for me with tech brand deals, because tech brand deals pay a lot, but there's different boot camps that have offered to pay me quite a substantial amount of money, like 2 to 3 months of rent, but I just don't want to take it on. And so lately it's been weighing a lot on me because I think all the decisions kind of feel like they were made out of love and not out of practicality, if that makes sense. Brief intermission. So I went into the Japanese mart today to get some snacks for the intermission segment of Soju with Sarah. So I got this lychee jelly. Unfortunately, I already unboxed it, but we'll do like a little ASMR segment. The brand on this is Bamboo House. I don't know where you can get it unless you're at an Asian store, but I'm hoping this sounds like ASMR because it might just sound like... And if my camera will focus, you will see the jello. But let's try this. Yeah, I'm hoping this is a recurring segment in the podcast so that I can try more food. But I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. 9 because the packaging isn't as easy to open. All right, this next section is called Juices with James. Totally not because he's already in the same apartment as me, but I brought on Mr. Jung Garments / James, my wonderful, lovely boyfriend, but also a very talented fashion designer, creative.
Stop. Great intro. Thank you. Hi. Happy to be here. I feel like we should show off your cups first.
Oh yeah, we should. So if you guys watch my vlogs, I make cups. I've been really into pottery, and so I made these cups. This one says soju, which was actually for the intention of this podcast.
There we go.
Here we go.
Soju.
And then he's using one that doesn't say soju because my other soju cup is still in the kiln and it's not ready yet. But that's actually my favorite cup, so you should be honored that you're using it.
I am honored.
But because you're my first guest, I'm going to give you that cup.
Permanently?
Permanently. It's now yours.
Wow, thank you. Even though we live in the same household, I probably would have used it anyways, but thank you so much.
I wanted to bring James on today because I feel like this topic is very relevant for the both of us because it's just a struggle that we've been both going through. And also, I feel like I'm trying to give credit where credit is due because you coined the term opportunity cost of your 20s, which is what this podcast episode is about. We recently came back from our 5th year school reunion. And
what school is this again?
It's a small school in New Jersey.
And what school is that?
Princeton. I always feel so weird saying Princeton, and I feel like you also feel the same way.
Yeah, but it's better than saying we went to school in Jersey, and then that makes people have to ask where we went to school.
But I don't feel like I'm 5 years out of college, and...
You look it. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say
that. Anyways, I just think when you're older as an adult, there's this concept of you gotta lose something to gain something. And we've both been trying to pursue this like creative side project. You more recently, in the last couple of months, have really taken it more aggressively. And
Do you want me to explain the opportunity cost to
yeah,
them?
I'm a little flustered right now.
Okay, so reunions. Princeton reunions is this ridiculous whole thing that happens every year. It's more involved than regular reunions for a lot of different colleges, and it's because the school places so much emphasis on essentially they want us as alumni to donate a lot of money, and the way they do that is to make us buy into like the community at Princeton. Like we have a strong alumni network with a ton of school pride, and the way they do that is they set up this ridiculous 3-day thing where we have it's basically a bender for everyone that goes there. A ton of alcohol. I think it's like Budweiser's second biggest event or something like that after
Oh,
NASCAR.
really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, dang. After NASCAR?
Yeah, after NASCAR.
Oh, dang.
But yeah, it's like a ridiculous thing. Thousands of alumni come in from all over the country and some from like all over the world to just basically see all their old classmates and drink and have a good time.
Well, the way you describe it sounds so degenerate.
It is degenerate.
But it's very like, it's also to foster a sense of community and also just keep the Princeton community engaged and going. I mean, obviously, the undertone is they want you to donate, but they put so much care into the whole event that it's supposed to cater to our enjoyment and our.
That's true. It's way too cynical to say that's for
Yeah.
alumni donations, but I
Also-
guess that is undertone a little bit.
Also, he had more fun than I did, so I'm
I had a lot of
surprised you
fun.
worded it that way.
I don't know. I was just being cynical. Yeah.
But it is true, though, that they put together such a lavish event. And I think Jeff Bezos was there one year, and I'm like so sad that I didn't get to find him.
He's an alumni, by the way.
He is an alumni of the school.
That's why.
Do you think you noticed a lot of differences with the people that you saw and like your friends and everyone else?
For sure. I mean, definitely like you can see how like working a desk job can really like for me too. I'm like this a little more. And I feel like I saw that from a lot of the people that I hadn't seen in a while. Like their posture is a lot worse now.
Decisions make you uglier.
That's the realist topic.
Maybe you should come on for the episode called Getting Older and Uglier Sucks.
Am I the poster child for that? Yeah. I guess for the opportunity cost that I felt that I had incurred 5 years ago by the choices I made. Yeah, I feel like I felt that a lot this weekend, just comparing where all my friends are at versus like where I'm at, and just trying to understand like what did I give up by not doing certain things at the age of like 22. Like a lot of our friends I feel are doing really well. They're at these like top business schools like Stanford, Harvard, and I think that's because they were so laser focused on one career path and just kept with it. So if it was like consulting, they were really into consulting and like made sure they got into the top firm. They knew they were going to go to business school eventually. They took the GMAT early. They did all the recs and all that stuff. And so it definitely made me think like, if I had been as focused back then on stuff like that, where would I be in my career? I feel like I understand the opportunity cost stuff now. And I'm like, okay, let me try to actually be intentional about what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
Did you feel any of that?
Well, yeah, but also I just wanted to say one more thing is like you're really discounting where you are in life because you're not doing like all the business stuff and you're not doing, you're not a hedge fund manager or anything.
Hedge fund
manager. But you're also doing something that's so cool that I feel when we were at school this year, so many people were asking us about our content creation and especially your fashion stuff. I feel like so many people come up to me just to tell me that they watch your stuff and you're such a huge inspo. Yes, it's not non-traditional. Or wait,
it is non-traditional.
It is non-traditional, but you are going down your own path and you're making all these micro decisions for yourself too that in 5 years will come into fruition and be so beneficial for you. So you're doing the same thing, just in a different flavor.
Did you feel like that though, in terms of like comparison with like outcomes of people so far?
Yeah, I really did because the one thing that I don't really get to express as much on my vlogs is that I can't put all my energy into my work. And that's one thing that when you're working 2 jobs, because content creation for me is a second job, you can't really, really hone in on working corporate. Like climbing the corporate ladder does happen and I am in the process of trying to get promoted, but it's a lot harder because your attention's spread between 2 different things. And if you think about how often you have to like turn off one side of your brain to focus on another side of your brain, it just really disrupts like the ebb and flow of your personal workflow, but also your personal goals with everything that you're doing.
It's like so context switching.
Yeah, like context switching is hard. And you, I feel like, go through the same thing too, because you have a very manually demanding side hustle. What has been the biggest opportunity cost of what you're doing right now, which is trying to build up a fashion brand and work a full-time job?
That's a good question. I guess like for more context, I work a tech job. I'm in my mid to late 20s now. And then I also do content about clothing and make clothes on the side. So I think the biggest opportunity cost to hustling on that outside of work, probably friendships. Like I used to spend a lot more time with friends and I really prioritize that. But as I'm doing more outside of work, I just don't have as much time to be proactive with planning hangouts and things like that. And so I'm a lot more reactive to those things and generally just feel like I'm a little less close to my friends, which is kind of sad. So I would say that's more recently been my biggest opportunity cost. Also, I think our relationship sometimes takes a toll because I just don't have as much time to give you as I used to, which is something that I didn't fully appreciate about you when you started doing content and like have done that for the last 4 years. I used to just take it for granted that you could just do all that without really our relationship taking any sort of decline. So kudos to you. I don't know how you did that, but I feel like you didn't really let it show in our relationship.
Yeah, I think it just when I started doing content, I was very focused on maintaining social life and also relationships because family is a big part of my life, and also I factor in my boyfriend usually as family, usually. But I I never, I think for me, I just prioritize all those elements so much. And I also don't treat content as like a job, which is really bad because it does take up the amount of time that a job does. But I feel like I treat it as a hobby. But the reason I think that you like compromise on a lot of things is because you treat it really seriously, and I see it in the way that you focus in on your craft. You don't allow distractions in, which is really good when you're trying to like create something for yourself, but you treat it as an actual serious business, whereas I think I've always seen it as just like a creative outlet, which is like a hobby.
But I think that's also downplaying it because if we think about the opportunity cost that you have incurred, I think you gave up sleep is the main thing you gave up because you used
Yeah,
to
I
sleep
agree.
like 4 hours a night or something, right?
Yeah, there were literally nights that I would have to sleep 3 hours and then wake up at 9 a.m. because Saturdays and Sundays were the only days that I could film. But I also had coffee and brunch lined up. And so I would have to wake up at like 8, 9 a.m., try to film a sponsorship or an integration, and then jump to like coffee with people. And it was just so much. And my body took such a toll in
Yeah,
that time.
I feel like to give more context, she would go out at like Friday and then come back 3 a.m. or something, drunk, like really drunk. But then she would still get up at like 7 a.m., really hungover, film for 2 or 3 hours, then go to brunch and then come back around like 1 and then just like start editing.
That makes me sound really, really like a
Not good.
party girl.
But that is sometimes what you used to do.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's not a
Well,
regular thing, but I just
it's
remember you
just
used to do that.
because I really, really wanted to keep friendships. So my whole thing was I never said no to people. That was like really bad. Like, even if I have two things at the same time, I would jump to both of them because I didn't know how to say no to people. And that's just me being a little bit, yeah, I just wanted to always be there because I just never wanted my friends to think that I was slacking. I think the biggest thing I've sacrificed is wellness and well-being, and that's something that I'm really trying to fix now. But I think your choice of sacrifice is like in other things. So maybe more in the relationship side and the friendship side. And we've had a lot of discussions on the relationship side in the last couple of months because the amount of effort you've been putting into your work on the side has been like going exponentially for good reason.
Like this, and then amount of relationship effort is like, wait, like this?
No, I think it's a pretty straight line.
Oh,
He's
okay.
making it go down completely, but I think it's a pretty straight line for the people who aren't watching the video.
Oh, okay.
All they hear is and like this
Oh,
and like
yeah,
this.
yeah. Sorry.
But anyways, on the wellness side though, for me, I've noticed it affect. I don't want to get too much into the superficial because I do want to make an episode about the superficial, but I feel like it's affected my physique so much in the last couple of years, not prioritizing it from a not exercising, not eating well perspective. I just think I noticed that a lot when we were at reunions this year because it's our 5th-year reunion, and 5 years is a lot of time for your whole physique to deteriorate. And I don't know if it was in my head, but I was just like, wow, I've aged the most out of everyone here.
That was in your head.
No, I actually though did look at some people and I was like, wow, some people look great. Like some people look amazing. Anyways, not to cut your segment short.
Thank you so much. I will cherish this and use it in our household.
Thank you. Bye. Something that I've constantly been asked, especially going back to school and seeing all my peers who have been watching my YouTube channel and following along for my journey, they all ask me when I'm going to do content full time or if I'm going to be a content creator full time. But the reason that this question has been a little harder for me lately is when I first started doing content, I made a very active effort to make friends with other content creators who also had full-time jobs and kind of understood what my life was like, because it is very different from creators who do operate full-time. Like all their headspace and their flow and energy flow can go into content, but as someone who has to kind of switch your brain off to one thing to do another thing and go back and forth like that, I think I just needed a community of people that understood that kind of hustle and that kind of mentality. But recently, honestly, in the last couple of months, so many of my content creator friends who are full-time working are now full-time content creators, either by chance or by choice. And it's been a lot harder to persuade myself that I'm going down the right path just when I don't see anyone else doing the same thing anymore. Like on this hand, I can probably fill up half of it with other friends who would do content creation and do a full-time job. And I get it, because content creation can be very lucrative for some people. For other people, it's not as lucrative. Right now for me, I'm pretty much not even making my rent with my content, and that's fine because I do enjoy the process. However, not having people who I can relate to as much anymore does make it a little bit harder to kind of justify staying in a full-time job. That's all to say that this is another example of opportunity cost. I feel like in the last couple of years for me, making content has been at the expense sometimes of my social life, my career a little bit, and also my relationship and the time I can give to my family. And then on the flip side, working a full-time job is at the expense of my content. Like I feel like I can't output content as often. I feel like I can't be fully creative because I'm on certain deadlines and timelines where I want to post weekly or bi-weekly, and I have to kind of sacrifice on like adding unique effects, spending more time on thumbnails, spending more time on research. But I think that's a very common thing that a lot of content creators go through and experience. And it's not just unique to me, but it is definitely something that is more of a challenge the older you get and the longer you do two things at once. But going back to why this mindset is paralyzing, I just think that most people have a lot of things that they want to do. Like so many of my friends and I want to own a cafe one day, create a small business, do things like that. But because of this whole idea of opportunity cost, I feel like it paralyzes my own judgment and prevents me from actually taking the leap to start things because of the amount that you need to put into it and the question mark of whether or not you'll be rewarded for all the effort you put into it and all the things that you sacrifice to do a certain thing. And then once you throw money into this, it makes it really confusing when you try to decide what you want to do with your life. And then you throw prestige into it, because going back to my college campus, coming from an Ivy League, I think prestige and reputation is such a heavy topic that everyone at the back of their minds is always thinking about. And so actually when I started my YouTube channel, not a lot of people understood what I was doing and why I was doing it, because being a content creator / influencer feels like it's a fun hobby. Like it doesn't feel like a career for some people, and not just people from my school. I felt just some sort of like judgment from a lot of people when I was still smaller as a creator and I was still coming up and trying to like self-promote and put out videos. And I also made a lot of like fun videos, very girly videos, dyeing my hair and doing makeup. But there's a level of prestige and reputation that you don't really get as a content creator unless you're really, really big. And so all these things kind of factor into the opportunity and the ability to really decide to go down a certain path. And then also in the last couple of years, I've really had the privilege of meeting so many cool people and so many impressive people too, not just in work and in my job, but also in content creation. I have a lot of friends who are really amazing content creators, and it's hard not to look at the path that they've taken and want to kind of emulate what they do. If you hear that crunch, it is the passion fruit seeds that are in the yuja tea. And then lately, I've also kind of been grappling with my desire to be respected, and that's maybe a topic that requires its own video, but I feel like I've always held myself a little bit lower than I should in life. And because of that, I have this desire to make sure that people think highly of me. And I always fear what other people are saying about me or thinking about me. And that just doesn't really help when it comes to trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and also how I feel about myself, because my confidence and my ego and everything I've really had to build up the last couple of years, especially comparing myself to other people and content creators and just anyone in my life that I think is cool. So to tie this all together, I kind of wanted to talk about like the mindset changes and things that I've been trying to use to navigate this whole heaviness of opportunity cost, because I don't always want to be debilitated by fear of doing something new and fear of using up my time to do something new. So the first thing that I have been really, really trying to strive for is allowing myself time, because a lot of good things don't happen instantaneously. Like sometimes they do, which in that case, it's really lucky. But a lot of great things take a lot of time and a lot of work. And that's just something that I have to personally understand, because sometimes I'm a little impatient and sometimes I want instant gratification. I feel like these are all very like human things to desire and crave. I haven't perfected the way of actually telling myself to not rush and allow myself time, but that's the kind of essence of the first bullet point. The second thing is I'm really trying to make decisions off of happiness now rather than money and reputation or prestige, because at the end of the day, none of those things have really allowed me happiness. I think I really valued these things growing up because that was just the way that I was raised and the priorities that I had in life because of where I came from. But as I'm entering almost 30, I'm still a couple of years away from that, but it feels very, very close. I enter this state of incredible sadness that I didn't have when I was younger. And for me, I've now realized if I don't prioritize one, my well-being, and two, my happiness, no one else is going to do that for me. And those are the exact things that will mentally just burden me for the rest of my life if I don't prioritize it now. And so a lot of the decisions I've been making for myself recently have been based on happiness and where I want to spend my time, who I want to spend it with. But the next thing is just experimenting and exploring and trying out new things, because there's this whole concept of mental currency and how valuable different experiences are at different points in your life. And the gist is, the earlier you experience something new, the more valuable and the more mental currency it holds for later down in your life, because the more time you have to actually apply different experiences that you have. So I'm really trying to just experiment and do new things. This podcast is one way that I'm experimenting, so hopefully it's going well and you guys are still listening. If you're still listening, please comment a matcha emoji or a tea emoji. I don't know if there's a matcha emoji. But the third thing, which is kind of ironic to say, is to not think about things in terms of opportunity cost, but actually in terms of mental and physical currency. So basically thinking of things in terms of what can I experience now that will benefit me later, as opposed to what do I need to sacrifice now to get to where I want later in life. And I think that's been really helping me, because there's actually a lot of things I'm going through right now, which I feel like I have to use this mentality to justify. And I didn't know if I wanted to share this in the vlogs because it is very personal for me, but I am going through egg freezing. And that's just one of the things that I think right now for me, it's not necessary for me to do this. And a lot of my friends actually haven't, even though I feel like I talk about this with my friends now more, but there is an opportunity cost, because I'm so scared of going through the egg freezing process, because apparently the hormonal injections that you have to do actually sometimes mess with your mood for like a whole month. And I know that it's me giving up time and mental bandwidth to do this one thing that in the long run might be actually pretty beneficial for me. And I won't see the reward of it until I actually get to that point where I want kids. But I personally have just been seeing it as an opportunity and an experience that I'll go through that might be beneficial for me later, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to be like really sad and really emotional for a whole month. But the final thing is, this is how I'm taking it into my 30s, is I'm actually very excited for my 30s. Even though I've been really scared for the last couple of years, getting older and just hitting my 30s. And so many people that I've met And a lot of my friends who are in their 30s just keep telling me that the 30s are actually really fun, and you stop caring about different things that you used to worry about all the time, and you start making decisions that are good for yourself. And so I'm kind of excited for that, but I'm also just trying to set myself up for the future in ways that I didn't used to think to do. So anyways, if you are in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, and you're grappling with this idea of opportunity cost and sacrificing time and things to do new things, just know that we are all in the same boat, and the choices that you're going to make are worth it. We are all picking a route that will inevitably lead us to somewhere that we are happy with and enjoy. That is the first episode of Soju with Sarah. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far. The one complaint that I got from my first ever episode of Soju with Sarah was that I didn't finish even my first drink, and lo and behold, I also didn't finish my drink. I will chug it off camera. But anyways, we are all in this together, and thank you for watching the first episode or listening to the first episode, and I will see you guys for the next episode of Soju with Sarah. Bye.
Bloopers.
It's bloopers. How's the lighting?
You wanna look at it?
Is it too red? Might be too red.
It's a little hostage vibes.
Okay.
It's a little like anonymous mask.
Yeah.
We are coming for your family.
Also, you can use the bathroom. It's pretty decent.
You know, you like when you choose a thing, you choose usually so different what you're doing on the side, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Just any silence you just start making up.
This is so funny. We're clearly not podcast people.
No, this is like home video.
This is a home video. It was very crunchy.